Hello and welcome to this instalment of Talkin Trim. I'm Jonathon Skinner and today we're looking at the boot, trunk and spare wheel kit for the Jaguar MK10 and Jaguar 420G models. Now the Jaguar MK10 and 420G, the production run ran from 1961 up until the mid 1970s sort of era, and in 1966 it was effectively renamed. It started off as the MK10 and then they renamed it in 1966 to the 420G, which was roughly around the same sort of time that they updated the engine from the 3.8 litre to the 4.2 litre. With that change, there were some very basic minor aesthetic changes, mainly to the outside of the car. But when we're talking about the boot trunk kit, no changes happened. It stayed consistent for that sort of 9 or 10 year production period that I just mentioned. And the factory original spec for the interior of the boot trunk area was Biscuit. So it's that sort of sandy clay colour, similar to what was, well, identical to what was used in the Jaguar E-Type Roadster production era as well. And it basically consisted of two main elements. You had Biscuit Millboard panels, which went down the left and right sides and on the underside of the actual boot trunk lid hatch opening. And then you had all the Hardura elements, Hardura being a felt-backed plastic material that mainly consisted of, obviously, the boot mat floor area, the sort of rear bulkhead and stepped area, a couple of side pieces, and then obviously the main spare wheel cover, which was offside on the right side of the car as you're looking forward. And how we supply our kits are to OEM factory spec for the majority of the time. However, we can offer upgrade kits. So like I say, originally it would have been Biscuit Millboard panels and Biscuit Hardura. Of course, we can upgrade those to carpeting if you prefer. You could change the side panels to either carpet to match as well, or you could change it to a leather material if you wanted. But for the most part, we are offering these boot trunk kits to OEM factory spec. The boot trunk kit is included as part of our trim kit package, but we can obviously supply the parts separately. Now, when we're supplying them separately, you effectively have two main kits that comprise the whole boot trunk area. We sell the actual panel parts, the Millboard Biscuit panels. So you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They're sold as a kit. And then separately, as a separate kit, the Hardura pieces, which are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 with the spare wheel cover there. So two kits make up the whole boot trunk area, but all of it is included as standard in our trim kit package, so do bear that in mind. Our trim kit is a way that we offer the complete interior upholstery kit, or at least the vast majority of what you need to restore your MK10 or 420G, but it comes at a discount. So if you buy it all as one package, it works out significantly cheaper than buying all of the parts individually. Anyway, let's dive on into this kit. I want to go over it in as much detail as possible. So, just referencing a book before we go too much further. This is what we're talking about here. So you had the panel bits here, obviously on the boot lid, which are these bits, albeit effectively upside down because of the way it opens up. You had some side panels up the left side there, and then on the equivalent right side there. And then effectively this bulkhead, this step, this mat, and these lower side panels here are all the Hardura pieces there. And you got the spare wheel cover there. Unfortunately, that is the best image I have on that one there, but be sure to check out our website for more in-depth information and images. And of course, if you have any questions, do let me know. So, like I say, we supply the kit in two separate elements. So you've got all the Hardura matting pieces, and then you have the Millboard pieces. Let's start with the Hardura pieces at effectively the furthest front point in the boot towards the front cockpit cabin of the car. So Biscuit Hardura, like I say, it was commonly used in boot trunk areas. Certainly Hardura was by Jaguar during this era, and they did use Biscuit for quite a few of their boot trunks during this production era. So obviously the Jaguar MK10 and 420G, but it was also a common factor on the E-Type Roadsters. They also used Biscuit Hardura and Biscuit Millboard in the boot trunk area. It's a nice colour change from black because especially with the MK10s 420Gs, they were big spacious boot trunk areas, and Biscuit lightens it all up, makes it seem even more spacious than it actually is, whereas black can be quite engulfing, shall we say, in terms of space and whatnot. So it is a nice upgrade, but of course we can offer it in colors if you want. We do have a range of different Hardura colors, and like I said before, you can change it to carpet if you want to go for an upgrade as well, so bear that in mind. But Hardura is a felt back plastic material, so it's got a felt backing already on it, and then the front side is coated in PVC plastic, and it's got this sort of grained embossed pattern on there to sort of mimic vinyl and leather. And like I say, Hardura was commonly used by Jaguar during this production era, certainly for boot trunk areas, but also sort of rear cockpit cabin area of the car, like the rear bulkheads on the XKs and the E-types, etc. So it's a nice robust material. It's suitable for the boot trunk area because it's easily wiped clean using a wet cloth or whatever. So yeah, that's the Biscuit Hardura. Felt back plastic. It's edged all the way around, well, sorry, edged as per original specification. I will go over that in a second, but actually thinking about it, I'm fairly sure the Hardura pieces on the boot trunk matting of this kit are actually edged all the way around anyway. But generally the concept of edging is no raw edge should be on show when everything is fitted into the car, because it's either under the adjacent edge of another piece or underneath a adjacent sort of panel or something like that. But these, I believe, are actually edged all the way around anyway. We use leather cloth for our edging, which also known as Vinide or Rexon, which is original for that era as well. Do check out our blog handbook post, as well as the video I've done on the suitability of leather cloth for edging flooring materials, because a lot of other companies out there take shortcuts and use vinyl. Not going to dive into that too much, but certainly do check it out. So you've got this piece at the very front here, which is obviously the sort of bulkhead, so that's on the vertical as you're going into the car. There obviously has the curved sections there for the wheel arch elements of the bodywork of the car there. So you get that piece there. You then get this piece here, which is stepped, basically where these bits are. That's where it goes down the step in the boot trunk area of the actual car itself. Again, edged all the way around. Then you have this main section here, which is obviously the sort of main floor section, and it has the cutaway there for where the spare wheel slots in place there. And then you have that's actually the right side, and this is the left side, lower side panels in Hardura as well, which literally go down the left and right sides on the lower edge of it there. I will try and point them out here, but like I say, not great image. So that's obviously the left one there. So let's have a look. This one here is effectively this lower part here. This top part here is actually the panel there. Obviously the right hand one has a cutaway again, which is all related to the sort of bracket element for the spare wheel, which sat on the right side as you're looking forward in the car there. So they're effectively the Hardura pieces. They did use a couple of fixings, which we do supply. They're these studs, black studs. We don't pre-insert them. It's always best to do that in situ in the car. So they are included as standard with the Hardura elements there. So you did use some hood studs for some of the main pieces. However, the rest of them were either lightly glued in place or literally the sort of friction element kept them into place there. There is a bit of semi, obviously, bending you want to be doing on that step piece there. So we do always recommend you put a bit of glue along the sort of curved section there to anchor it in place, but always a little, never a lot. You can always add more, but it's very hard to take glue off, so just be mindful on that. And of course, if you do need any tips or guidance on the fitment process, do get in touch with us there. But that's effectively the Hardura pieces there, apart from obviously the main one of the main features of the boot trunk area, which was the spare wheel cover. Spare wheel cover is done in two main sections, obviously roughly the shape of a wheel, and again, Biscuit Hardura edged all the way around and then sewn as well on the join element there. So you do get those pieces as well with them, and they are obviously these bits here. Now moving on to the Millboard pieces, and just for a bit of clarity on the actual material itself. So originally from the factory, and for many years we used to supply them like this, it was literally a coloured Millboard, biscuit coloured Millboard material there. So it's grey on the back, obviously like sort of natural Millboard material. They're all cut on our in-house CNC machine, and they have the relevant fixing holes on them there. And it was literally a sort of surface dyed Millboard material there, and this is how we used to supply them, but the longevity of it isn't that great really, basically. We noticed it here in our factory with keeping stock ones, but yeah, basically we weren't particularly happy about the surface level element of the actual, you can almost see it there actually, where it's sort of started to flake off. So what we now do as standard is we actually trim them in Biscuit material, love cloth or vinyl material. You can see there, obviously we cut around where the fixing holes are to make it a bit more obvious. But yeah, I just thought I'd show you that because, like I say, we like to be as clear as transparent as possible with these sorts of things. So we can, in theory, supply exactly how it was originally with the Biscuit Millboard, but I wouldn't really recommend it because it does, like I say, get easily chipped and damaged. So we do, as standard, trim them in the Biscuit material there, which I think is a much better finish anyway. So bear that in mind there. So with regard to the actual panels themselves, you obviously have the side panels here. Now the right side is split into two because of obviously the bracket for the spare wheel cover. Then the left side's in one there. You have these cutaways here, which are obviously for the sort of hinge element of the actual opening of the boot lid. Like I say, trimmed all the way round. You do have the fixing holes, which I'll go into the fixings a bit further on in this video, on those there. So the left and right ones there. Now do bear in mind that the way they're put in the car, because they are effectively the upper part of the side, so they're the lower part. So in the car, that and that are kind of butted up to one another. But you'll note that the top part of this panel here, can't really do it unfortunately, especially with my dodgy wrist, but this effectively curves and bends round. Now Millboard is a very flexible material. We'll try and demonstrate with my better hand, if you bear with me. There we go. So you can see it does bend and warp, and so what you want to be doing with this Millboard material to get it during the fitment process is you're getting it to curve and bend round there. Now you should be able to just do it with effectively brute force, but if you're struggling at all, what you can actually do is just get a paintbrush or something and wet it with water, and just down where it needs to curve, just wet the back of it with a bit of water and keep on letting that dry and repeat, then curve and leave it around a tube or something like that, just overnight, and it will get a nice natural bend to it. But like I say, you should be able to just do it manipulating it with your hands, but it depends how much you want to go into that process there. But either way, that's the way they're kind of fitted into the car, along with obviously the fixings, which I'll come to in a second. So you've got the left and right panels there, and then you've obviously got the boot lid, underside of the boot lid. So what we're talking about there is effectively these panels here. They are in two pieces. There is effectively a join down the middle. There is a semi overlap on them. They do obviously have the cutaways for the hinges of the actual boot lid. So these elements here, so they're the hinges that go onto the boot lid, and obviously the bits that go into the underside of the inside part of the cabin there are those bits there and there. Now obviously we're looking at this the wrong way around. That's actually on that side, but then it's turned over effectively because it's a boot lid, so it curves up. So it's all a bit confusing in this video because it's effectively upside down and the wrong way around, but you get the gist. And again, they're Millboard panels. They have all of the fixing holes pre-drilled into them on our CNC machine, but then effectively floated over, cut away on the back so you can see where they are. But again, if you need any help or advice on the positioning of those, do let us know, and I can guide you through it. So you get those elements of the boot lid as well as the side panels there. And these are, you just want the effectively self-tapping screws and washers there for fitting into the car with the panels themselves. Some of them, like I say, are effectively friction in place as well, which helps keep them in place, but after that it's these screws and washers there. So yeah, that's effectively the kit. And like I say, all of this is included as standard in the trim kit package. Otherwise, we can supply them separately, sold in two kits. All the Hardura pieces, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, along with the Millboard pieces as a separate kit. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, Fixings included as standard, biscuit as standard, unless you want to change the colour as one option or change the colour and or the material as another option there. So bear that in mind. Please do see our website for more details. Of course, if you've got any questions, do hit me up in the comments below. But thank you for tuning in. Please remember to like, share and subscribe for other classic car enthusiasts out there, and be sure to check out our next video. Thank you very much.